So here we can see one of my pictures that I took during one of my own microscopic sessions. And we're going to turn this picture into a vector image, which we then transform in a three-dimensional object. So this is a picture of a fungal structure right here, taken from a piece of decayed wood. So looking at this shape over here, I thought it would be interesting to use this fungal structure as spokes in a bicycle wheel. Well, first step is to convert this picture to a smaller size. So I'm in my picture app, it's a Windows app, but basically works the same if you're using an Apple. Just export it and make it smaller, because the program that we're going to use next will not allow you to import a picture that is larger than 1 MB. So in this case, 4 MP megapixels will do. So I'm going to save that, of course name it, and we have a copy. And this is basically everything we have to do in the photo app of your computer. And then I open it in the website vectorizer.io, which is a very nice free piece of software you can use in your browser. So now we're going to upload our image. I call this Elective 6. I'm going to open it. It accepts it. Otherwise, it will give you a warning that it's too big. So here we go. And on our left-hand side, we can see the original picture and the output on our right-hand side. So what we want in order to extrude this flat drawing into a 3D model is that we want to turn it into a black and white image. So everything that is black will be extruded. And we scroll down a bit, we can see that it already offers us the opportunity to turn that into a black and white image. So here we go. But now we can see that the background is black, and the structure that we can see here that I want to use is grayish. So I'm going to scroll down again and simply switch off the black, and then we end up with something like this. And we can see all these squares in the back, which means there's no color. And that's exactly what we need. Nice. So vectorize. Basically see the same thing, and click on the floppy disk over here. We can see different kinds of file types that we can choose, but we need the SVG default, and then it will immediately download it as an SVG, because that is the file type that we need in order to open it in the software that we're going to use in a minute. Basically, we're done here. You can check around what the other possibilities are of this program. Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty neat. Alright. So after creating an account for Autodesk Tinkercad, the software offers you a couple of tutorials. You can do them, of course, but you can also skip them as long as you get yourself to this page here where you can create a new design. As you probably noticed, it looks a bit childish, this software, but don't underestimate it. It could be a very powerful tool to design your 3D objects. Alright, so create new design, and here we have our work plane. So this is where we're going to work on. So we can move around using the box right here, but also of course your mouse, holding your left button to pan around, using your scroll button to zoom. You'll figure it out. And on our right hand side, we can see several basic shapes. You can simply drag them on your work plane and basically build your own model, stacking them on top of each other, moving them around freely. We can also use objects to cut out, for example, holes. So just scale up the red box here, and I want to use this cylinder to cut a hole in the middle of the red box. So we select hole and put it in the middle by selecting them, choose align, and then hit these buttons right here. Then it's perfectly centered. If we select everything, go to group, there we have our hole. Of course, there's a lot more to this program, but for now we're going to focus on using our SVG, our vector file, to turn that into a 3D model. So we're going to hit the import button, choose a file, and then we choose the SVG file that we just created. And it gives me a warning that it's too big. I'll make that smaller and import. This could take a while if you have a bad internet connection. Could sometimes take up to 3 minutes or something, 2-3 minutes, but it also depends on the density or the complexity of your vector file. So keep that in mind. And mine should be almost here. There it is. There we can see our vectorized picture as a 3D model. So it's basically just extruded, meaning straight up. But we can already change the dimensions, scale it. If you hold the shift button, you can scale it in a uniform scale. Alright, let's check the top view there. Alright, so like I said, I want to turn this into the spokes of a bicycle wheel. So you can imagine that if we could slice it in a way that this is a quarter, we can simply mirror it, copy and mirror, so that we can have a full circle. So first I'm going to put it in a 45 degrees angle. You can see that right here. And then I'm going to place a center point using the tube from my basic shapes. So I'll put it there, make it a little bit smaller. So let's say this is the center of the wheel. And then I'm also going to use the same tube, copy paste, uniform scale, using the shift button, because what I want is that this is basically the part that I want. So I'm scaling up the tube. Let's make it a little bit thinner, so then it will cut away the rest. You can also use the options here, for example, to increase the wall thickness if necessary. And of course center it, because this is my center point. So select these two, align, select this object, these two buttons here, and then it should be perfectly centered. Alright, so we're talking about trying to get a quarter. So I can also use this box here, copy paste that, turn it over. So now we can see our quarter already. Let's hit the tube there. Also change that to hole, and I'm going to move these a little bit to the center of the tube right here, which you should be able to see pretty clearly here. Alright, and the center, I want to have a hole in the center as well, so let's increase the wall thickness a little bit. Yeah, alright, and also turn that into a hole. So that will leave me with this quarter of a wheel. Select everything, hit group, and then again, depending on the complexity of your model so far, it could take a while for the program to calculate what it needs to do. Sometimes could go up to 2-3 minutes. So there it is, without any parts we don't want for the wheel. So we select this, Control or Command, copy, paste, hit the mirror button, mirror it like this, and then putting it together as good as I can. So we're not looking for perfection here because these objects are only for visual purposes. So let's copy paste again, mirror again, and then also put the objects together. And if you want to select multiple objects, hold the Shift button. Alright. So here I have this part here, fully round, and I can also add objects from the basic shapes, like for example the tube, to put in the middle. Here, change the size of it, change the wall thickness. Okay. And when I'm satisfied, make it a bit thinner. I can select everything and group it so it becomes one single model. So now the wheel is grouped, and I think it's time to move over to the Mesh Mixer software. So we're going to export everything in this design. We can choose OBJ or STL. We're going to go for STL because that's also a file type which can be opened in Mesh Mixer. So it's exported, and now it's time to first download and then open the Mesh Mixer software. So I've opened the Mesh Mixer software. Let's ignore this and import our model, which we created in Tinkercad. It's creating a mesh out of our solid object, which is basically it turns it into an object that uses triangles to make the surface instead of the solid objects we worked in with Tinkercad. So this program allows us to play around with our model in a very different way. For example, if we select Sculpt and go to Brushes, and for example hit Inflate, and let's see what happens. You can see you can inflate your model basically. We can change the strength or the size of the area we will inflate. We can also clean up our drawing a little bit. These small parts, if you want to get rid of them, go to select and then simply hit delete. You can make it even nicer than it was before. Okay, so let's say I'm satisfied with what I have so far. There's a pretty easy way to make this visually attractive, and that is by using shaders. So that's pretty interesting, because what we can do here is download or use one of the default colors to well, spice up your model a little bit. For example, it's dragged in red here, but you can also, if we hit the plus, import an image of, for example, moss. And here it is, and drag that on to your model. So if we want to get rid of the grid here, change the background, if you hit the space button, hold it, click on the black block over there, change it to white, and we can see everything even clearer. And if we go to view and switch off the show grid, then we already have a pretty cool image in 3D, which we then can simply print screen and open in a different kind of software, for example Illustrator or even Word, so that you can isolate your picture and put it in a presentation. Just to give you an example of how it could look, I've opened Illustrator and I will paste the image that I took from Mesh Mixer. I'm going to cut it out. To get rid of the stuff that I don't want in my design, so the layout of the software. Then I have my image, which then could be part of my poster presentation. For example,